Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. I know Commissioner Don Garber is thrilled to be here. I'm your studio host at the MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, Jillian Sakovits, and this is our Commissioner of Major League Soccer, Don Garber. Don, yeah.
Jill, let me if I can just open up with a couple of things. Those MLS staff people that graduated from the program here, just stand up. In the front row.
Oh, here we go.
I want to just thank the program, Scott, and all the friends that we have at Columbia for doing such a great job in developing the next generation of future leaders in sports. So we have a great representation here in the front, and I'm just happy to talk a bit about soccer.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So 20 minutes. The commissioner and I will get to chat, and then we're hoping to open it up to everybody here for about 10 minutes. So we'll dive right in. 24 years plus, Don, with the league. You've taken it through era to era, saved it multiple times, but your career began way before that. Can you take us through how you got into sports so early on, like everybody here is looking to do?
Sure. I've been in the sports business for over 40 years. At a time when there were no sports degree programs. You got out of school, and if you wanted to work in the sports industry, most people came out of the sports information area, or they were working in the press office or in operations in college. And I had worked at an advertising PR agency out of school that was beginning to represent companies that were interested in marrying their brands with sports people, sports leagues, and associations. And my first client was Miller Lite. For those of you, your parents might remember Taste Great and Less Filling. We had all these ex-athletes, and we would take them around the country and do media tours. But my real claim to fame was, it was the 1984 Olympics. My client was M&M Mars, and we had a giant jar of M&Ms on the back of a truck, and a bunch of people in the agency drove around the country, which I did. And people would get to guess how many M&Ms were in the jar, and they won a trip to the '84 Olympic Games. M&M Mars was looking for a sponsorship and sent me over to the NFL, who had a marketing division at that time called NFL Properties. And I went for a meeting with a guy whose name is Rick Dudley, just retired as the chairman of Octagon, a big sports marketing agency. And they pitched, a sponsorship for M&M Mars. And I got back to my office. I said, man, you NFL guys are pretty aggressive. Said, no, we want to talk to you about a job. And that was 1984. I worked in sponsorship sales for a number of years, and I was the guy that convinced the NFL to eliminate the dancing snowflakes and Disney characters in the halftime show, and maybe get a guy like Michael Jackson to perform, and founded the NFL Experience and did a number of things in that area. And then the NFL was looking to start an international division in 1996, and I launched that group, reported to Robert Kraft and Lamar Hunt, who founded MLS. Mm-hmm. And I was at an owners meeting in Atlanta. It was Arthur Blank's first owner meeting, and Robert came over to me and he said, what do you know about soccer? I said, absolutely nothing. I hate soccer. And said, you'd be a great commissioner. And the rest is history.
It had to have taken courage at the time to jump from the NFL, a known property, into MLS. What was the deciding factor for you?
Well, I started the same day as Roger, and I think Roger was anointed commissioner when he was in grade school. So I knew I wasn't going to go further. I was the president of a division. I was traveling over 100 days a year. I'd opened up about 8 international offices for the league, and I knew it would be a short window. I didn't want to be an international sports person. But as I spent a lot of time overseas and went to a lot of soccer games or football games, and I started seeing the demographic shifts that were going on in the U.S. At a time in my marketing experience at the NFL, I launched the NFL flag program and relaunched punt, pass, and kick. I was responsible for taking the helmets off the players and trying to build a identifiable fan base with a sport that was sort of disconnected from their fans. And we were thinking about soccer a lot. So the idea of demographic shifts, the growth of the Hispanic audience, seeing the global connection that in and around sports was happening, and I was living it every day. It just seemed natural. I probably wasn't quite sure at that time that It was the right decision, but it worked out okay.
In that time, you've gone from 10 teams to what will be 30 MLS clubs, one soccer stadium to 26. How did you do it?
Well, that's a long story. I
got
think
time.
in the beginning days, and another shout out to Sunil Gulati, who's a professor here in the university, and Sunil was one of the founders of the league. And when I met with the founding owners, Phil Anschutz, Robert Kraft, and Lamar Hunt, the league had 10 teams. They operated 3 teams. So the league, a guy in our office who was the longtime president, operated 3 teams. So he would do trades with himself. He would go from one office to the other and managing Tampa, and he was the general manager of 3 teams. That's actually an exaggeration, but the league operated 3 specific clubs. I knew we needed to get those teams in the hands of independent investor operators. We needed to expand the league, but before we could do that, I believed we needed to reorganize the league. 2000, 2001, the league had already lost about $250 million. The owners at that time tasked the league office to come out and present a plan. I think that was one of the seminal moments in my career, one of the seminal moments in our league, arguably one of those real disruptive points in professional sports, because we went to the owners with 2 plans. Give us another $250 million, and here's what we'll do with it, or fold the league. And we actually went through bankruptcy discussions. We had parallel discussions going on at the same time because we weren't sure that we would get the incremental capital. Part of that $250 million ask was to start a marketing company akin to NFL Properties, something I was familiar with, that would go out and raise the commercial value of soccer in America. Right at that point, FIFA could not sell the English language broadcast rights for the World Cup. Now think about that. 2002, 2006 World Cup was sold to Univision, but they had no English language carrier. So we went out, told FIFA, why don't we buy those rights? We had to raise money from our owners to do that, form a company that would represent U.S. soccer and the Mexican Federation and League, and et cetera, et cetera. That was part of the plan. And by the way, if you're not going to invest in that new company, you ought to leave. And a number of owners did leave, and we folded a number of teams. It wasn't until 2005 that we expanded again. That expansion fee was $5 million. That was not that long ago to go from 5 to the 500 million we just closed in San Diego a few months ago. A lot of history along the way. Great owners, growing passion for the sport. I do think the digital connection where people are connected to each other, where somebody who lives in Brazil might have as much as common with somebody who lives in Brooklyn as that Brooklyn person has with somebody who lives in White Plains. So we were able to capitalize on the fact that the world was shrinking. Soccer was exploding. Our national teams, men and women, were doing well. We just rode the wave with smart investment and careful strategy, hard work, hard planning, lots of consultants, lots of, as you know well, lots of risk, going out and digging in and taking risks and having the courage to fail, and all of that so far has gotten us to where we are today.
Another seminal moment that has connected MLS to the world more is MLS on Apple. And I know you and your team worked tirelessly to get that deal done, the first of its kind. Now that we are almost through season 1, how would you describe it?
Well, I think it's important to take a step back. You are students. Right? And I think that when you're observing things that take place in industries, I think it's important to understand what happens under the covers. How do you peel the onion back and see what are the steps that businesses take? What are the decisions they make? How do they raise capital to support those decisions? How do they create consensus around those decisions? And importantly, how do they have the right governance in place? So even with the right capital, the right people, the right energy, if you don't have the right governance, then you can't execute on your plan. Our decision to get the path to getting to where we are now, Jillian, you've been doing a great job. You all should tune in to MLS 360. Jillian's a star. Was seeing that our local television business was softening. All of our clubs were mandated when the league was founded to have a local TV deal. So NYCFC was on Yes, and the Red Bulls are on MSG, and Time Warner for the Galaxy, et cetera, et cetera. It was a mandate. And as the regional business was softening, you all know that. How many people have a pay for a cable subscription here? That's why we're on Apple. I mean, that's not brain surgery. Right? So we started understanding by just tracking our club's local deals that 3 years later, this would happen. So we went to our teams with the right governance. We're structured like as a limited liability company, told our teams, you can't sell your local media rights past a certain date. We then told as we were looking at the sports betting world, at the data collection and distribution world, all the things that are related to our intellectual property, the league put a terminal period on and said, we're going to put that in a bundle. And then we went out to the market, to the traditional market that now is no longer traditional, but to the streamers and said, we are the only league that could offer a package that would have one touch, one click accessibility to any consumer anywhere in the world with no barriers, no blackouts. So if you want to watch Messi and you live in Buenos Aires, you can turn on the same app, open up the same app and watch him no different than we could watch here in northern Manhattan. That concept was aligning with what the streamers have been thinking about. So we were in many ways, as you know, in the right place at the right time. But dealing with Apple was difficult. Apple had never been in the live sports business, not been in the live business. Live is very, very different than controlled content and aggregated, curated content. We have a great visionary leader in Tim Cook and Eddie Q, who's his right-hand guy. They did the deal, which is kind of unusual. It's an interesting dynamic. We're used to negotiating with the heads of sports divisions. This was a deal that Eddie Q and Tim were intimately involved in, which was a bit of a surprise to us. And as they were building out their vision for Apple services, we were able to deliver them everything. We had 61 different start times last year. Now we have 2. So think about what that means from scheduling. Our attendance has gone up. Well, I was told this is on the record, but our attendance is up over 20% this year. We'll announce that shortly, simply because fans know exactly when they can go to a game. It's the Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, Thursday night, Monday night thing that exists in the National Football League. So it's been special. We produce all those games. We hire all of our talent. The league is not a production company. We had to learn that. We had to create that muscle to hire 85 on-air talent people, and we had to produce 600 games in an 8-month period of time. It's all in 1080p. There's no other league in the world that does super high definition. I think you'll start seeing games in 4K. I think Apple's doing a great job on Friday Night Baseball with technology and the inclusion of data. Just wait what you're going to see in MLS, what you've seen already, what you'll see in the years to come. And lastly, Jillian, it's a partnership, and that's the most different aspect of it. After we hit the minimum guarantee from Apple, we make 50 cents of every dollar. That's the risk in this deal. I'm highly, highly confident we'll get into that revenue share. So we have a partnership with the largest, most innovative technologically forward, big thinking company in the world as our partner. So we can think about things together, like should we sign Lionel Messi, which we likely would not have been able to do if we didn't have Apple, and I'm sure that'll be your next question.
It's been fascinating. I can tell you our studios are just over at 106 in the Park. It's been fascinating to watch this project build, and it's been incredible really to be a part of. And it was incredible before Messi. And like our commissioner said, it's been even more incredible since his arrival. You saw LeBron James, Kim Kardashian. The people cannot stop coming to get a taste of Messi. What has surprised you the most about Messi's arrival in MLS?
You know, I had this in my talking points, which I read on the way here, and I should remember to read them in more detail. So I was supposed to say, so that was a good hint for me.
Okay.
Before Messi, this was teeing up to be the best year in MLS history. St. Louis came in as our 29th team. It is our most popular team. Our attendance and revenue in that club is at the top of the table. They're doing unbelievably well on and off the field. What a great way to launch the season. We had 82,000 for the Galaxy playing LAFC. There was so much energy and so much momentum coming into this. And when the league started, while we had been working on Messi for years, in accordance with FIFA guidelines and the like, we would have had a great year and a record year with attendance even without him. But similar to the Apple deal, these things just don't come over the transom. We have consulting groups that work with us on research. Who are the players that we think can be transformative? What kinds of ways do we need to try to talk to them about making MLS a league of choice? That is our brand message. We want fans and players and partners, municipalities and governing bodies to think of MLS as a league that they can be proud of. And the discussions with Leo were very much about you can be part of building something that will transform not just sports in North America, but soccer around the world, competing against the Saudis, which is not an easy entity to have to compete with. But we were able to get to him and talk to him about how could our league work for what he is trying to achieve for his career and for his family. It was complicated, and it's worked out pretty well. It wasn't as much fun as the Beckham negotiations. That negotiation, which I don't know that could be Beckham's documentary just came out on Netflix this week. But Beckham decided he wanted to come to the United States, 2005 or so. He was in the prime of his career. I had to go out with somebody that Sunil knows very well, and the president of the Galaxy, and meet with David and his wife and convince him how this league at that point, 2006, would be able to handle and manage somebody like David, and it worked out incredibly well. But the David concept came out of research that said our fans want to see more international players. They want to see U.S. national team players, and they want to see the biggest stars in the world. And David at that time was the biggest star in the world. Messi is how to just get the best player in the history of the game. It's over-delivered on what we expected. I mean, I didn't expect the celebrity turnout. By the way, I didn't expect him to perform the way he did, and it's really a shame that he's been injured the last number of weeks. In the opening game, that Leagues Cup match, when he had that free kick, it was the 92nd minute, and I was with folks from Apple and folks from Adidas and turned around and said, we actually deserve this. And it's kind of like a penalty kick. My back was turned, and he scored that free kick. It sort of was like that thing where maybe there's something here that's going to deliver perhaps more than we thought. And it's been great. Attendance has been 62,000 in Chicago with no Messi. Just the other night, we had our averaged over 23,000 people on Wednesday nights of all of our games there, which is an incredible number for us. So it's been good.
It's been fantastic to watch. And by the way, manager Tata Martino has not ruled Messi out this weekend against FC Cincinnati. So keep your eyes on that. Speaking globally, let's talk a little bit about the World Cup coming to North America in 2026. And while it seems far away, I know, Don, for you and your staff, it's absolutely not. What does it mean for the league?
Well, I mean, I'll take it higher. What does it mean for our country overall? What does it mean for our sport on all sides and all aspects, all stakeholders, and then ultimately for MLS? The World Cup's the biggest event in the world. Everybody here probably has some following understanding of what the World Cup is. I'm sure you saw Messi's victory in Qatar, but I don't think people really understand how big it is. It will be billions and billions and billions of dollars of ticket revenue. You're going to see the largest tournament in the history of the World Cup. It's going to be across 3 continents. Our country will stop and pay attention at all levels when the greatest teams in the world come and compete for the World Cup trophy. And I think that's going to be great for our country. There'll be great legacy programs. All the host cities are creating programs. They'll go deep into the community at the government level, at the grassroots level, at the youth soccer level. All of those folks coming together, connecting the dots to create a legacy of what the World Cup will do for us in 27 and beyond. And my message to our federation and to our league and to our partners in the pro game on the women's side is, let's think about this as the rocket fuel that we all are looking for to elevate the sport to levels that will rival the rest of the world. I tell our federation, I've been on the U.S. Soccer Board for 24 years, that we have an opportunity to have a generational impact on creating the value that this sport can provide at all levels to all people, getting into cities and to the urban core where our sport isn't touching people and influencing their lives as much as the beautiful game can, and on and on and on. But from a business perspective, there's almost nothing in life in business where you know exactly where you will be 3 years from now. We all do long-term business plans and we all try to forecast. Got a lot of holes on where you're going to be for revenue and expenses, and it is very difficult to do that. But we know in the summer of 2026 exactly what will happen. And we could have that countdown clock that I can have all of us across every aspect of our sport thinking about what do we need to do to ensure that we're capitalizing on that opportunity. And you could imagine it's deep, and I think it's going to be really, really special.
Yeah, we're all really excited for that. Final question before we open it up to the group. When you're hiring young people at MLS, what's the first thing that you look for?
Well, it's probably no different than I'm sure you'll hear this from every speaker. I'm not a good interviewer. I'm a gut guy. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. You know, I didn't come into the sports business with the same level of experience and pedigree. I grew up in Queens. I went to a public school. My parents were public school teachers. But I always knew that if I worked harder and I was able to capitalize on my life experiences, that I ought to be able to win. And that's kind of taken me to be able to hang out at the White House with you and others at our All-Star game with the President of the United States, but also sit down and ensure that I'm meeting with interns when they come into the office and hopefully have a memorable impact on that. I look for people who are smart, who are hungry, who are ambitious, without climbing on the shoulders of those that they're working with, perhaps being pushed up by those people who they're working alongside, who are going to work harder than the next person, but I don't want to know how hard they're working. I want to see the quality of their work. We all want smart people, but I'm assuming smart's a table stake. We're also very focused, as we all ought to be, on diversity and ensuring that we're surrounding ourselves at all levels with people that can see themselves around the table at all levels of the organization so that we can embrace diversity of thought. We have a diverse ownership group. We have a diversity committee that is chaired by one of our employees. That is the only diversity committee in pro sports that has our players on it, our coaches on it, our technical directors, our owners, and our staff, including the Black Players for Change, as you know, an organized union of our players, all working together to help us think about life differently. And if we do that, then that should carry through to our employees. I want employees to have fun. I mean, we are in the sports business. It's a gift to combine your avocation and your vocation, not taken away from everything that everybody else does, but we get, and this sounds colloquial, but we get to actually work in delivering on the hopes and dreams of our fans. And if we do it well, we're going to create lasting memories. And if we screw up, we're going to have to pay the price, because the scrutiny and obligations we have to the public and the standard we're held to is higher. That's the price we pay for being in the great business of sports.
I can attest at MLS, the one thing I love the most about it is if you're passionate and you're hardworking, you can create your own path and really move up there, and it's embraced by everyone around you, no matter where you come from. You got two SUNY Oneonta graduates up here. Okay, let's open it up to
Not
the
taken
questions.
away from the great Ivy League education.
Absolutely not. We'll let the microphone come around and pick who wants to.
Hi, Don. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Hernan Gonzalez. I'm originally from Peru. I'm currently a student here in Colombia. I could spend a whole day asking you questions, but I'm just gonna do one. So recently, everything aligned, right, to have MLS have this growth that we've seen in these last months, right, like Apple deal, Messi. But do you envision taking into account the future World Cup and the Club World Cup and the Copa America next year here in the US, do you envision the MLS being a top 5 league in the world? And if so, when do you think that could happen? And what's the right path, not only sport-wise, but leadership-wise to get there?
So a great question and a long, and we could spend the rest of the day talking about that. Our aspiration is to be one of the top soccer leagues in the world, top soccer football leagues in the world, measured by the quality of our play, the passion of our fans, the relevance of our clubs, and the stability of our enterprise. So if you think about that across all of the other leagues, you have a lot of popular leagues that are economically upside down. You have some clubs that are really relevant and some clubs that aren't. This idea that can you really name all teams in La Liga, or do you just think about Madrid and Barcelona and maybe Atletico, et cetera, et cetera. Those goals, right, those driving sort of core visions for us are something we think about every day. So when we're thinking about quality of play, how do we measure ourselves against the rest of the world? How do we manage our salary cap? How do we change the way we're spending players? How do we attract more international players? How do we incentivize our teams to sign young international players that ultimately can go on and do great things? Miguel Almiron coming through at Atlanta and being a star in the Premier League. How do we invest in young homegrown players? All of our clubs are required to have academies. They now go up through a second league. We own AAA baseball in MLS. It's called MLS Next Pro, $100 million annual investment, all trying to create the pyramid from youth all the way up to pro that other leagues have for 100 years. And when you have owners that are so focused and have so much capacity and just want to win, win doesn't mean just winning, because somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose on every weekend. We're talking about winning, being thought of when you think of the Premier League. That's what we sit around in our planning meetings and talk about. It's a lot about generating more revenue. We can invest more in players. It's about 26 soccer stadiums. When I came in, we had one, and investing $15 billion in stadiums all over the United States and Canada. All of that puts us in a position where our league is respected by the rest of the football world more than it's respected by people here who are following global football, which is an enormous irony. I co-chair something called the World Leagues Forum, the top 42 leagues in the world, and we led the creation of that. We're the keynote speaker, and we're up on the stage talking about proper governance, proper revenue generation, proper fan development, proper management of off-field activities. We do things really well, and that's part of the measure. It's not just about whether or not you have Lionel Messi. And I try to tell our people that all the time. He will be here to 25, 26. There will be world in 27 and beyond, the year after the World Cup, and we need to be bigger, better, stronger, more profitable.
Let's see. Do we have time for one more?
It's on?
Yeah, I think the
Hello.
mic is making its way to somebody. Hi.
All right. Hi. Thank you, Commissioner Garber, for speaking to us. I'm not a student, actually. I flew in from Missouri, but I'm a big fan of MLS, and I've always had aspirations of working in Major League Soccer, but I currently work in fintech. But one thing that I wanted to mention is, before my question is, I have a background in social work, and I'm very interested in the intersection of community impact in soccer, and I have some ideas on, how MLS could improve, like the MLS Works initiatives. But let me just get into my question real quick. So I understand that similar to the NBA has partnered with Kenya to have an office there in Kenya. And I heard the U.S. ambassador to Kenya mention that MLS would like to have an office or a location in Nairobi. And that interests me because I am Kenyan. So if you have any insight on that or any details about that, that would be awesome. If you're looking for somebody to help out, I'm that guy. So yeah, just
Good
want to
on
ask
you.
that question.
That was awesome. Well, the ambassador to Kenya is Meg Whitman, who's the part owner of FC Cincinnati. And she's one of 4 female members of our board. The NBA has done an unbelievable job with NBA Africa and NBA China. I mean, history will judge it as one of the great innovations and moves in the history of professional sports. Soccer or football is a global sport. The NBA is a global league. And being able to do what they're doing is remarkable. And I think they're going to see value of that in ways that are going to pay off for generations. I want to just finish on the MLS Works side of things. There is a growing part of our industry, CSR, community service and relations. It's a growing part of our business. Also, the player engagement area is another new part of the industry. How are we working with our players to better educate them, to ensure that, we have guys that are playing until they're 35 years old and they wear shorts to work every day. And now they're 36 and they've never had a job. And unlike many other players, though our players now are making more and more money, and I'm proud of that, we've got to work with them to think about what life is going to be like when they retire, while they're still working with programs that we have with investment banks and et cetera, to provide career opportunities for players, keeping them out of harm's way, another exploding part of the sports industry. We all know now that there are no shortage with social media of challenges that players get themselves into and need to face, not just dealing with them when that happens, but how do you have programs to ensure that they are better prepared for those types of challenges. 35% of our player pool is international. They're coming into our league, they play for less than 3 years. Many of them don't speak English. Imagine what that challenge is like for them when they come into Cincinnati and they're from Rio and they've got to come in and manage life living in the Midwest. So there are so many growing parts of the sports business. I'll leave with, it's not just about the traditional jobs. Our business is exploding in areas of opportunity, and I would encourage you to think about things we haven't thought of. And that's what would intrigue somebody that's running our people space, coming up with ideas that MLS should be thinking about that might be off our radar, and create that opportunity for yourself. I started the event development business for the NFL because I pitched them on the idea for the NFL experience. It didn't exist, and it turned out to be a company that had a department had 120 employees. So, you know, you get what you put into any job, and sometimes you shouldn't wait for that opportunity. You got to create that opportunity yourself.
Commissioner, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jillian.